And we are live. Hello, humans. Welcome to our interview series we're doing for the Total Worker Health Symposium, which goes down next month in October. So today we have Dr. David Daniels with us, and I'm going to read his bio. We're going to ask him a whole bunch of questions, and it's going to be very exciting. So Dr. David Daniels is a leading voice in workplace health and safety. A former public safety executive turned occupational health and safety professional, he is the founder and CEO of ID2 Solutions, LLC. Dr. Daniels is also the author of Psychosocial Hazards Are Real, one of the first books to explore psychological health and safety from an occupational safety perspective. He holds a PhD in occupational health and safety and brings a wealth of expertise from programs at Cornell, Harvard, and the Flourish DX Academy in Australia. With decades of leadership experience, Dr. Daniels is passionate about building safer, healthier workplaces where employees can thrive. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah. I was about to say Sarah as well.
Yeah, Sarah. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Good. I'm so excited to have you here because I know that your expertise is in the psychosocial aspect and hazards at work, which is super cool because you have the occupational safety background. Yes. So I actually wrote my PhD in psychobiosocial states and high-level athletes and how to support optimal human performance from like the motivational standpoint. So I'm really excited to talk about all of this just because I feel like we're going to have a lot of comments. And you're just coming out with a new book. So when did that get published? Is it new?
Actually, the book hit the shelves in April of 2025. So it's been out for a few months now.
Nice.
It is going gangbusters in Australia and Canada. And I think it's sold in Spain and the UK. And folks in the US are picking up on it as well. So I'm really proud of the work, and I hope it creates a conversation. I try to write it in such a way that really anybody could pick it up and kind of figure out what it is I'm talking about.
Okay, awesome. So you're basically taking the science and breaking it down so it can be used in like any organization.
Yes, yeah. I did the PhD thing because I found an employer that would pay for it. They all awesome. But beat me to hell to do it, but they did. But I don't consider myself primarily a researcher or an academic. I'm what I would call a pracademic. I've done some research around a particular topic, but I have a lot of kind of practical application that I learned predominantly in the fire rescue service, but then have had some opportunities in the occupational health and safety space to figure out that the non-physical hazards that we don't talk about are creating much more havoc than the physical ones that we do.
Yeah. I find that too. I love that perspective too of taking the research, but actually applying it for where it's like super beneficial. And then also taking the scientific academic language and making it so that regular people can understand. Because as you know, writing a PhD and dissertation is like, how can we just use really complicated language? So this is great for other researchers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had a similar, when I went, because I did my master's and PhD in Jyväskylä, Finland.
Okay.
And I didn't know that I was going to a research university. I was just so excited because that was the first year they were doing this program in English. Right. And then I went there because I was like, I want to help the humans and the people. Right. And I was like, oh, we have to learn statistics and publish research. And because I was studying coaching, I was like, how do we get this information to the coaches that I can actually help the athletes? And it's like, no, we just present for other researchers. So I feel like it's same page.
Right. Oh yeah. No question. And frankly, and some of this, I have to be quite candid, has been due to therapy. I've come to accept that people see a lot of things very, very differently, and I don't necessarily no longer get emotionally attached to how people see it. So there are some in the kind of academic field that will say, oh, your research could probably be, you write more papers and all that type of thing. And then there are others on the practical side to say, oh, that stuff's way too academic. So I try to have conversations with people who are interested in having healthier and safer workplaces, and trying to get them to see this bifurcation that we created that suggests that how we think and how we feel, or the physical environment and the psychological environment, are two separate things. They're not. They're absolutely connected, because what goes on up here tends to manifest in how our bodies operate. And there is I just think there's been a we've missed when we've talked about safety, because we always talk about physical safety, and we forget about safety is not only about what you do, it also is about how people feel. And a lot of the safety related effort that we put into all kinds of things, I hear people talking about safety all the time, many of which we have no background or expertise, but we talk about it because everybody thinks they know what it is.
Mhm.
But safety is a thing that you do, and safe is something that you feel. They are related, but they're very, very different. And sometimes all the safety activity in the world doesn't cause me to feel any safer.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. So what would be your, I know there's no such thing as a magic wand, but the first step to help organizations or leaders move from that just talking about safety to actually feeling safe? What do they need to do to get there?
The first thing, which is the reason that I put the title on my book that I did, it was purposeful, is to recognize that psychosocial hazards are a thing. They're real. They exist. Because those things that we don't believe exist, we'll never take any action to address them. There is a school of thought out there that suggests that only the hard skills, the scientific, quantitative, objective, uh, that's the stuff that matters. And all this other stuff is like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. And I'm here to suggest that they are both important. And so in terms of creating a safer environment, it is safe for people who feel like it's safe. It sometimes doesn't matter what you do. If I don't feel safe there, it's not safe. And you can work yourself to a frazzle, but if we could have conversation about what causes us to feel safe, and feel that that's important, we could get a lot more done in terms of creating these spaces that will support that. But again, I think a lot of the issue is, as long as nobody got hurt, nobody got killed, it's okay. Here's the analogy: is there are people who decide which communities to live in based on how safe they feel. They'll look at the crime statistics and all that type of thing, and if there hasn't been a crime in 50 years, if I feel unsafe there for whatever my reason is, I will not stay there. I will not be active there. I will not engage there. It is a feeling thing, and that drives everything else. And I think too often we, safety people, leadership people, HR people, whomever, we decide, oh, we have this great safety management system, and we've all this money we've invested in PPE and sprinklers and all these other safety related things, police officers on the street, but people don't feel it. And we put no attention to that. As a matter of fact, we don't even ask. We assume that it feels good for me. Why doesn't it feel good for you? Because we're different people, that's all. So I think that's where it starts, is recognizing that how people feel in an environment is just as important as all of the other kind of uh, things that we do to cause them to feel a particular way.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I think the language that organizations use, leaders use, managers use, but also leading by example and breaking down the barriers of talking about mental health and creating that conversation. And what's the language you're using? What's the culture you're creating? So let's just say an HR person is coming to this conference and comes to hear you talk and is like, okay, great, we got it. Like, we got to get the culture to feel safe. What are their steps then that they could do to start going down this pathway of like even just talking about it or making it part of the organization?
So managing psychosocial hazards is just like managing all other hazards, just like managing biological, chemical, ergonomic, safety, physical hazards. It's really no different. Hazards, if we're vulnerable to them, can create risk. And there are a lot of organizations who talk about risk management. Risk management is about identifying the risk, assessing the risk, mitigating the risk, and then monitoring what we've done. This is no different. This is not some totally, you have to create a new program type thing. It's not that. What are you doing for chemical hazards in your organization right now? What are you doing about ergonomics? What are you doing about biological hazards? It's the same approach. Identify the issue, assess how it's impacting us, determine how we're going to mitigate it. And mitigation doesn't mean eliminate, because you can't eliminate them all. Let's dispense with that conversation. You cannot eliminate all psychosocial hazards. It is impossible because, and something I should mention, there's an international standard, ISO 45003, that describes 88 psychosocial hazards. It defines psychosocial risk, but what it doesn't do is define what a psychosocial hazard actually is. And that's what I did in my research and in my book, is define it. So a psychosocial hazard is a psychosocial factor that's perceived or experienced by the person exposed as threatening to the extent it affects my behavior. And it has to have all of those things. And this is why this hazard is unique and different. A chemical is what it is and what it is. It has the same properties. It'll do what it does any place around the world. For chemicals, we have a globally harmonized system for chemical identification, safety data sheets, and all this stuff. So it doesn't matter which country you're in, where you are in the world, the chemical will do the same thing. It may operate differently at different altitudes and in different temperatures, but for the most part, the chemical is what it is. A psychosocial hazard is in the mind of the person. And I can hear people talking about, we can't manage all that. Yes, you can if it's important. Yes, you can. And the data to address it comes from the human being. I don't feel good about this. This feels uncomfortable. That's data. That is qualitative data from the individual that says there's something going on that makes them feel uncomfortable. And that could be handled at the absolute lowest level of the organization, a coworker, a first line supervisor. So I'm not suggesting that the CEO run around and ask everybody how they feel. I'm suggesting there should be a culture where everyone can say, we're getting ready to do this thing and I feel a little uncomfortable. Could we talk more about it?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's back up just for a second in case there's people who don't really understand what psychosocial is. Right. So do you want to, because you said your dissertation, you basically explained, you gave a definition, but let's pretend that the audience has no idea. So can you give us examples? Is it like stress or burnout or?
So first of all, the word psycho, how we think, social, how we act, and it's the connection between the two. And a psychosocial hazard, again, is anything. It could be an environment. It could be a set of words that somebody says. Now, if you look through the international standard, you're going to find things like bullying and harassment and violence and role ambiguity and over or underuse of my skills. And all of these are situations where when exposed to this phenomena, I feel threatened in some way. I feel uncomfortable in some way. And I feel so uncomfortable that I do something to change how I'm feeling about that. Either I get away from it. So my amygdala identifies this as something that could potentially harm me. So I'm going to try to figure out what to do to not be harmed. And this happens all the time. All the time. I'm sitting in a meeting and particularly if I'm the only person in the room that is different. So I already am feeling a little uncomfortable anyway, but I'm here because it's my role. And a comment is made. And the comment doesn't have to, I'm not suggesting that all psychosocial hazards are created by evil people who are out to harm me. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that it may be comfortable for you, but not comfortable for me. So I was raised in a single parent household. My mom was 14 years old when I was born. And when people talk about, oh, those single family, those, the dads weren't around and there's something wrong with those people. Well, I'm one of those people. And folks wouldn't necessarily know that unless I told them when I walk in with my PhD or my suit or whatever. They don't know that about me. And I'm not suggesting that they said that intentionally to be threatening or to be uncomfortable to me, but it makes me feel uncomfortable when people look at others and judge them based on whether or not they had one parent or two. Mm-hmm. That's just a thing for me. Now, what'll change my behavior is if I notify you, if I let you know that, I'm one of those folks, and and sometimes what people do once they recognize that they have made someone feel uncomfortable, they go, "Oh, I didn't intend to cause you to feel that way." And again, it's not what they said; it's how I reacted to it. So I'm not putting the blame on them either. I'm saying it just causes me to feel that way, and to the extent we can have conversation about that, you can know that. Oh, okay, well. Let's talk about that more. I want to understand more about what that means, because I have said things and caused people that have probably caused people to feel uncomfortable as well. But if I don't know that, I can't address it. I can't do anything about it. It'll just continue to happen unless we talk to each other. I'll say this now, stop this little diatribe. Safety doesn't work real well when you try to do it to people.
Yeah.
It doesn't work real well when you do it for people either, because that disempowers me. It works better when we do it with people. So we have to do this. We both have a role to play, and both of our roles are important.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have to believe that humans want to do better. And when they know better, they do better. And you can train them skills and controlling the controllables. I always say, like, if I could say my PhD in one sentence, it's controlling the controllables, and that you can always improve. And what we can control is ourselves compared to ourselves yesterday, and 1% better. And I think educating the humans about, words matter, and how you communicate matters, and how you give feedback. And we don't know what we don't know.
We don't know what we don't know. And I think I'm convinced there's a way to do that without blaming each other, without making it seem like there's nothing wrong with you. There is something different between me and you, though, because we're all different. And that's not a value judgment. I'm not better or worse than other people. I'm just different from other people. And I think we should take the time, as opposed to what we tend to do is, let's come up with a box, put everybody in it, and everything's good. Well, not really, because that box wasn't really built. When I build a box from my view. It works for me. Everything I do for me is perfect, but it's just not for other people. It isn't.
Yeah,
it isn't. And we have to have conversation. What's going to be, what can't we build systems that are good for both of us, that work for both of us?
I love that. Because I work with I go into organizations and we do neurodivergent training and ADHD, and a lot of it, it's like, yes, and every individual is different, and what someone needs for support and to feel psychologically safe and how they want to be communicated with is going to be very, very different than this person, regardless of the box. And we don't like boxes, but ADHD, dyslexia, autism, or analytic or neurotypical, like we still, I think getting down, we both study psychology and we care about, but it's an individual. So one of the research tools I love that I used in a lot of my research is called the individual zone of optimal functioning. And it's basically like, there's 8 different areas, and you're basically like reflecting on your performance if a certain emotion for you is either helpful or harmful towards your performance. But that there's basically the zone where it's really great, and this zone, I always call it like a mountain range.
Okay.
And as humans, like, we can train you skills and communication feedback to get better. And then next time, maybe the dip won't be so big, but that our brains are neuroplastic and we can learn new skills. And then everybody wins. The
Yes.
company wins, the productivity, the
Yeah.
safety. And
Yes.
as you started talking, you were like, safety is the number one thing and not what I think is going to make you feel safe, but
Right.
being able to communicate to say, here's what I need. This is what safety feels like for me. And then, but what's going to make you feel safe is so different than what's going to make me feel
That's
safe.
exactly right. Yeah. We again, unfortunate. Well, unfortunate for some, fortunate for others. Particularly here in the United States, the vast majority of our infrastructure, our systems, our institutions, our what we call right and wrong, how we measure people, was created by and for 8% of the global population. Just was. And that, the cisgender white male who had that idea, who was able to move it forward faster than a woman would or faster than a black person would. And it wasn't a horrible idea. This is not some sort of criticism of the idea, but it was very limited in its view because, like I said, you only have the view of what works for you. But then we invite other people. We invite people who are neurodivergent, who are disabled, who are older, who don't meet the model that the box was designed for. So, but then we don't redesign the box. We try to redesign the people. And that's the issue. Well, let's just redesign the box. How come? No, it has to be. Well, yeah, it can be. Just like it was created that way, it could be created this way. This idea that every family has a male and a female and 2 children, or just like buildings have to be so there are humans created this, and they created out of their minds, so other minds could, if they were involved, could create other ideas. That's all. And not to criticize any of the ideas, not to say they're good or bad, but they're just incomplete because they didn't have enough involvement of the people that they would impact.
I love that. And I think that's so important. That was my whole argument a lot of my academic career. And now I realize it's also like demand avoidance and being like, yes, but every individual is an individual. That's and right. All this can be changed. So
it can be. It can be. Yes.
You speak my language, and I love that. Okay. So if our humans want to hear more, I want to hear about your book. And then you're going to let me know when you're doing your presentation. He actually is too. He's going to be on a panel too. So share all that with us.
Yeah. So again, my book is available. If you go to my website, ID2 Solutions, and get it right from the website. You can actually go on Amazon as well. But it's a pretty quick read. And again, it is intended. So it's kind of like, I would say kind of 2.5 books in one. There are some biographical, some stories, about, my life and my experience. And I share that because it's mine. It's stuff I know. I didn't have to interview somebody else. I know my own story. And I've tried to share some things that have happened in my life that I now look back and say I was being exposed to potential psychosocial harm. And not only potential, I was in the fire rescue service for 32 years. I saw lots and lots and lots of trauma, lots of it. I can talk about it right now and have just rattle off these stories about what some people might perceive to be extremely horrific things. But I was trained to understand what I was seeing. What I wasn't trained to do was understand how I was feeling. So, and we just didn't have conversation about it. And this is not a criticism of the city of Seattle, who gave me the opportunity to be a firefighter either. But at the time, it just wasn't a conversation we were having. They trained me how to go into buildings on fire, how to rescue people, how to clean up hazardous materials. We were really good at that. But in terms of the emotional piece, it just wasn't something we had a conversation about. And it took, years and years later for me to kind of recognize what some of that felt to me. And I talk about some of that in the book. I also talk about this concept of psychological health and safety from an occupational health and safety perspective. Most of the folks who've talked about it are psychologists, mental health providers, and they do a great job, but people use the word safety and they're not necessarily safety professionals like I am. This is actually a second career and a half. So I was in the fire rescue service for a bunch of years. I thought I wanted to be a college professor for about a year. And that turned out to be a little bit too bureaucratic for me. So I
Same.
decided to go into occupational health and safety, and that's been what I've been doing for the last 14, 15 years. And then the last part is a few ideas about where to go next. Not a lot, because this is so individual. So when I engage with people to talk about the concept of psychosocial hazards and psychological health and safety as a concept or as a system, there is no uniform way to apply this. There just isn't. It depends on your maturity, depends on, because what I'm finding is that a lot of organizations have no current safety programs really at all, because they don't think they have physical hazards, and they probably don't. So they don't have a safety program. Yeah, we don't do that kind of stuff. But you have psychosocial hazards that people are being exposed to every single day, and you only pay attention to them when one of your workers leaves, or you get sued, or some other horrific thing happens. Somebody brings a gun to work.
Yeah.
And there were signs of exposure to the hazard a long time ago that you could have done something about. And so we talk a little bit about toward the end about, what you can, start thinking about if you accept this definition, some of the things you could do to create a safer environment. In terms of the symposium, so I joined the Society for Total Worker Health almost 3 years ago.
Mhm.
I've had opportunity for the last year to serve on the board of directors, and really, believe in the concept of total worker health in the United States. I think it's the best place to have the conversation about psychological health and safety, because it crosses everyone and everything. It is agnostic to the industry. It doesn't matter. It affects everybody. And if you don't address it, you will never get and maintain total worker health unless you deal with the psychosocial piece. Never. It doesn't matter what you do. If you don't address the psychosocial hazard environment, you can get psychological safety by accident, but you can't maintain it unless you look at the psychosocial hazards. So I'm going to talk about at the symposium this concept that NIOSH actually came up with. It's a hierarchy of controls for total worker health, and I'm suggesting that, again, in the U.S., it is one of our best tools to address psychosocial hazards. There's a physical hierarchy that addresses it a little bit, but this one really addresses psychosocial hazards better than the physical hierarchy of control does. And a lot of people know about the hierarchy where you eliminate and substitute and engineering controls, administrative controls, and PPE. A lot of people know about that, but they don't know so much about the other hierarchy. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the presentation. That'll be on the October 21st at 1 p.m.
Awesome. Well, it's so exciting. Thank you for spending time with me today. I look forward to joining you for your session. I think it's super important, and I love that you're advocating for stuff that really matters, because there's skills that we can develop.
That's right.
Every individual and every organization is different, and it's something that can be supported and can make such a big difference.
Yeah, it can.
Because we're human beings. We are not robots.
That's
And
exactly
when
right.
life happens to us, we react, and we can train ourselves. And like, you were a fire chief and running into buildings. And for me, I was a diver. So we were both doing things like our brain is telling us no. And we've trained our brains to either like block it out, perform at our best, control our emotion, and do it anyways.
Yes.
And it's almost like our own little traumas we're having, but then also realizing we can deal with that and talk about our emotions. And
that's right.
Bring it in our body and make it easy. And it's going to look different for everybody, and everybody's needs are individual. So I love what you're selling.
Right.
I'm on the same boat.
Right.
If you guys are interested, so I'm doing a business showcase. My program is 5 to 7 minutes. You do it at work. It's physical and mental health training, no equipment, really fun videos delivered in ADHD fashion. That is going down on the 23rd of next month, which I believe is a Thursday at 11:15 a.m.
Right.
In room F1, F2, and it's called Move at Work Challenge: Driving Employee Health and Happiness at Work.
Right. Absolutely.
Cool.
Right.
Yay. Well, have a beautiful day. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, you can reach out in the comment section below. And we hope to see you in Bethesda next month.
Absolutely. Look forward to seeing you.
Adios. Thanks for being here.
Take care.
End stream.